From Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Purim, the nature of the gifts of Purim. If we look at Purim, we have two obligations. We have the Shalach Manos, the Mishloach Manot Ish Re'eu, sending gifts, the rabbis say 2 gifts to one person, gifts of food items, and Matanot Le'Avyonim, gifts of money or food to at least 2, or a plurality, of poor people. What is the nature of these 2 mitzvot, and how do they relate to the other mitzvah of Purim, the mitzvah of joy, and the mitzvah of Seudah, of having a special meal for Purim? When we look at the Matanot Le'Avyonim, the gifts to the poor, we could look at it one of 2 ways. One is that it's a din of tzedakah. It's relevant to the notion of giving charity in general. Usually there's a mitzvah to give tzedakah. You could give it today, you could give it tomorrow. In shul, they have a nice custom to try to give every day. But there's no specific mitzvah to give today versus tomorrow. Whereas on Purim, the rabbis, the Megillah itself, Mordechai and Esther instituted that we should give tzedakah especially on Purim. Or no, it's not a din tzedakah. It's not a law relevant to the laws of tzedakah. Well, it could have some overlap with it, but basically it's a part of the law of having a Seudah, having a special meal. Not only should you have a special meal, but others should join in as well. We know that on Yontef, Rambam says in the laws of Yontef that you can't just rejoice by yourself. That's no joy. You have to help the widow and the orphan, the poor. Otherwise, it's no joy for you. And here too, there could be a mitzvah to help others as part of your simcha, to have a true joy, or to help others have simcha, a special mitzvah to make sure others have simcha and joy on this day. Now, what difference does it make? Let's say it's a law of tzedakah, or it's a law of helping people have their seudah and their joy on this day. What difference does it make? The answer is, it could make a big difference. We know that when it comes to the laws of tzedakah, we have a concept called Mefarnes Maniya Akum Imana Yisrael. We give charity to the Gentiles with the Jewish poor as well. So if in general you have a tzedakah fund or someone comes knocking at your door and you give charity to the Jewish poor, and then when a Gentile comes, you give them tzedakah as well. In Darkei Shalom, we want to keep the world peaceful, should have a peaceful relationship with all the people around you, Jews and non-Jews. So of course, we give the Gentiles as well. However, if this is a more ritualistic law, if this is a matter of making sure that Jews celebrate Purim, even if they don't have such a blessing to have so much food to rejoice, they don't have a bottle of wine, they don't have any meat, they don't have any bread. So we help them do that. Well, that's a ritualistic thing. If the Gentile lines up with the Jew to get some money for this day, I might give him as I might give him on any day, but I might not want to give him because I say, no, this money was designated specifically for the poor, and for Purim. And how dare I use ritualistic money designated to help Jews celebrate Purim to give to a Gentile who I could give to tomorrow, or give on a different occasion. This money is not for that. Secondly, we have rules about tzedakah. When it comes to tzedakah, you have to know if someone is poor. I'm not going to give someone a lot of money if I think they're not really poor. Of course, if you're not sure if someone is poor or they're not poor, you give them a little bit, so you shouldn't send them away empty-handed. But if before I'm going to give a large gift to a poor person, it behooves me, and I have every right to investigate whether the person is worthy or not worthy. They're truly poor or they're not poor. However, when it comes to Purim, Emedaktian, most Purim, they say you shouldn't be so careful. Anybody who puts out his hand, says the Yerushalmi, you should give them. Why? Perhaps it's not really tzedakah. Had it been simply tzedakah, then there are rules of tzedakah. We only give to those who are worthy. But since on Purim, I'm just trying to help other Jews celebrate Purim. If somebody says he wants some help with his Purim, no problem. I'll be happy to help him and give him some so he can rejoice more on Purim. Of course, another nafkamina, another difference between whether it's a tzedakah law or it's a different type of law, is let's say he's not going to be able to use the money today. He is in Bermuda. So I'll take the money and I'll put it under his door, and I'm giving it to him on Purim. I'm giving it to that person. He's not there yet. I'll call him on telephone. I'll tell him that he got it. He'll be happy. If it's a law that I want to help him on his meal, he's not there. He's not going to use that money now. He's going to use it when he comes home. However, if we say that it's a law of tzedakah, so I gave tzedakah on Purim, he knows about it, he's happy, I made him happy. If that's the law, to make him happy. But if it requires that I help him rejoice on Purim, and I help him eat on Purim, then giving it to him when he can't get it is not sufficient. One of the questions here is whether shalach manos and matanos avyonim are two different things. You see, clearly shalach manos is clearly part of the meal. The Rambam, for instance, says that how do you rejoice with this meal? What's the obligation of the meal of Purim? He says you should eat something nice. It's not like Purim, like it's not like Shabbos where he says it should really be the best kind of thing. Just something pleasant, something nice, according to what you can afford. And then you should drink something. The whole question of how much you should drink, we have other videos discussing that. And then you should send shalach manos. So shalach manos is a way of helping other people, even who are very wealthy, to rejoice on the holiday. I may have a lot of money, but I don't have that special quiche that you sent over that's so delicious, and I'll enjoy it. And so you send it to me, it makes me happy. Is matanos avyonim, are the gifts of the poor, are they sort of a subset of the shalach manos? Shalach manos I give to those who are perfectly capable to help them rejoice more with their holiday. And to the poor, I give even more. I give 2 people, rather than just 1. I give them. The question is, why do I have to give them 1 item? Why not 2 items? So here, I believe it was a Ran who said that, well, the poor, they're happy to get 1 item. So give 2 items, 1 to 1 poor and the other poor, so you can spread the wealth. But with the wealthy, I mean, if they don't get 2 items, what kind of meal is that? They're going to have 1 pickle. That's not much of a meal. They need to have a pickle and they need to have some kugel to go with it. And that would make for a nice meal. But so they need 2 items, but the poor don't need the items. So in other words, maybe the idea of 1 item is that it's really shalach manos. Matanos lavyonim, gifts to the poor, are really a form of shalach manos. It's just that the poor person, firstly, maybe he could use some money to buy the things that he needs. So you can give him money, whereas with shalach manos it should be something readily eaten. And secondly, you don't have to give him as much because he is poor. It's kind of counterintuitive. You think you give him more because he's poor, but we say no. He'd be happy if he just had something. That's what the Ran says. But the important thing for the analysis of it is that if it's merely to help him with his meal, then that the gifts of the poor are a way of giving him shalach manos. It's a poor man's shalach manos. And then analytically, the matanos avyonim is the same as the gifts. The gifts of the poor is the same as shalach manos. However, the Rambam, on the one hand, he kind of mixes them together. He says you have an obligation to rejoice with shalach manos and gifts to the poor. So it's all, you send the gifts to the wealthy or to those who are capable and who have enough. You send them shalach manos to rejoice, and you send the poor money or food also to rejoice. But when he talks about the obligation of the meal, he says that's shalach manos. Shalach manos is part of you're rejoicing with the meal, you send other people a meal too. But then he has a separate halacha, chapter 2, law 16, where he says that you have to give to the poor. He lists it as a separate law, as if somehow it's not part of the chovas suda, the obligation of the meal. So maybe somehow it's different. Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt, in his writings in the Rivvos Ephraim, we're privileged to have him here in our community for many years until his passing in recent years. And he asked an interesting question, and that is that if the shalach manos was given and it wasn't received, nobody ever got it, does it work? Do we say, like Rav Shlomo Gansfried, that we're trying to give tzedakah, that we just want to give a lot of tzedakah on this day, to give merit for the Jews that they were saved in those days, they should be saved again in the merit of tzedakah, but we don't want to embarrass anyone. So we give gifts to the wealthy, and then we sneak in some gifts to the poor as well, so they don't notice that we're really trying to give them tzedakah. It's a din of tzedakah. So then, if he didn't get it on Purim, or if it was lost or stolen, or he didn't want it, or he refused it, maybe it's not a law of tzedakah. Maybe that wouldn't count. Maybe you're trying to help him with his meal. That's, as we mentioned before, that's the Suda. Well, if he didn't get it, maybe it doesn't help. Maybe we're trying to show that there's friendship among Jews, as opposed to Haman thought we were so separate, but really we want to show friendship. And that's the Manos Halevi had that idea, the Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, who wrote the Friday night L'Chadodi song. It's a matter of friendship. So if he didn't get it, then he didn't even know about it. They don't get the mitzvah. But says Rabbi Greenblatt, if he knew about it, but he didn't want to take it. So, well, you tried to give him friendship, but even though he didn't take it, maybe it counts. Or maybe we could say, no, if it didn't engender friendship because he refused to take it, maybe then it doesn't count. The Ramah says it does count even though you didn't get it. But Rabbi Greenblatt thought that it depends. If he doesn't accept it because of hatred, he still hates you, then maybe it doesn't accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish. But if he just says, look, I have enough shalach manos, I don't need it, so at least you made an overture of friendship, and therefore it does count. One final point, it's interesting to note that the Ritva, both here in Megillah and also in Bava Metzia, Daf Ayin Ches, as Greenbaum points out and my son Tani pointed out, so there he says, it's a mitzvah of joy. It's not just a mitzvah of tzedakah. The matanos of Yonah, the gifts to the poor, are not just a mitzvah of tzedakah. It's also a matter of joy. And similarly with the gifts to your friends, it's not just a matter of sometimes tzedakah. You do it in order to help people rejoice. What is matanos evyonim? What are the gifts to the poor? Is it just to remind us to give tzedakah? Is it somehow that on this day, time of trouble, we want to give tzedakah to give merit to ourselves or to the Jewish community? Or is it to engender friendship? Or is it a special mitzvah to help everyone rejoice on this day? Let us hope that on this Purim, indeed, we can do both. We can be more wary of the poor and the needy, and in general, engender greater charity and gifts to the poor. And let us hope that we can also engender great joy on this day, engender friendship, encourage association of one Jew with the next. And let us hope that this Purim accomplishes that very lofty goal. I want to thank Tani Finkelstein, my son, who's studying at the Yeshivat Har Tzion. I just had the privilege of visiting in Israel for much of the analysis today. And I want to thank Jason Lefkowitz, our producer, as well. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.